In the week leading up to a recess at the legislature, we had a couple of bills on the move worth talking about. We also had a CRPA Capitol Day with volunteers getting in front of their elected officials. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. Sorry for being a day late with the video, but we are on the heels of the CRPA Capitol Day. Was able to go up to Sacramento to do a little bit of advocating, something certainly I want to get into in this video today, but we're also on the heels of some legislation passing through committee. So to talk us through that today, we have brought back our legislative director of CRPA. He's also the host of Firing Line Radio. You can catch him every Saturday at 1 p.m. on AM 590 The Answer. That, of course, is Rick Travis. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into the fun stuff with Capitol Day and some of this legislation, guys, if you can, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps get this information out as far and wide as possible. And it's also a direct way that you can contribute to the two-way causes here in California, whether it be the litigative or the legislative programs that CRPA puts forth every single day. So, Rick, let's talk about some of this legislation first. And actually, Jacob, if you can pull it up from the Legislative Digest, this is Assembly Bill 1078. It reads like this. Existing law prohibits a person from making an application to purchase more than one firearm within any 30-day period. Existing law prohibits a dealer from delivering a firearm to a purchaser when the dealer is notified by the Department of Justice that within the preceding 30-day period, the purchaser has made another application to purchase a firearm. Existing law requires a licensed dealer of firearms to conspicuously post a prescribed firearm safety warning message within the licensed premise, including that no person shall make an application to purchase more than one firearm as specified within any 30-day period, and no delivery shall be made to any person who has made an application to purchase more than one firearm as specified within any 30-day period. A lot of words there, guys. Basically, it means you can buy one gun a month. Every 30 days, you can purchase a firearm. Let's continue here. An existing federal district court order in a case pending appeal has enjoined the enforcement of the law limiting the number of firearms that a person is allowing to purchase in a 30-day period. This bill would increase the number of firearms that a person can apply to purchase within any 30-day period from 1 to 3 and would prohibit delivery of a firearm by a dealer if a dealer is notified by the Department of Justice that the purchaser has made an application to purchase one or more firearms that would result in the purchase of more than 3 firearms cumulatively within that 30-day period preceding the date of the application as specified. This bill would make a conforming change to the required firearm safety warning. So, Rick, that is a whole lot of words. A bill seemingly taking a 1 gun a month rule to a 3 gun a month rule. I know that you testified on this just a couple of days ago in Sacramento. Can you just break this bill down a little bit? And I'm specifically curious about the law being enjoined that they're talking about in there and how this is shaping up in committee in Sacramento.
Yeah, so thank you, Kevin. This bill is actually like a shotgun pattern bill. It is not just on I think what rose to the top for a lot of people was the 1 gun a month versus 3 guns a month proposed by the bill. But one of the bigger issues, or equally issues, is this is also going after what is coming online right now, which is that people from out of state can apply for CCW. So there's some bill language in that trying to regulate it. There's bill language for it's a Department of Justice bill. Clearly, it's a bill that is trying to get some parts back that they wanted, Kevin, that we have been able to take out effectively by either stopping legislation from happening or from enjoying it with litigation through Chuck Michelle and the CRPA's legal teams. And so this bill is trying to grasp at some straws. The biggest straw that was played out in this week in testimony was this difference between 1 gun a month and 3 guns a month. And so, instead of looking at the court case which said you can't limit a constitutional right, Kevin, if somebody wants to buy 5, they can buy 5, as long as they haven't broken the law. We don't tell people they can go to a car show and only buy 1 car, which is a privilege. This is a constitutional right, so you can't do that. And instead of being, logical and going, okay, the court said no, and that's a legitimate part of government. No, these are like my kids when they were in junior high. Kids, you can't have pepperoni pizza. Okay. What about ham and pineapple, Dad? No, we're not having pizza. Well, what about if we call it a calzone? What if we call it that? Like, they wouldn't let up. They wanted what they wanted, and they were going to keep trying to eat at the edges to get it. That's what this bill is. This bill is like, okay, they said no to one, but surely no one needs 36 firearms in a year. No one needs more. And I think what happens is a lot of times, even some of our own people pause and go, yeah, do I need to buy 36 guns in a year? You might not. Well, who would? And they get almost like offensive with that. So let me throw a few people out in our community that would. Any of you that have kids or youth or know of kids or youth or support kids and youth in these areas of 4-H, Future Farmers of America, scouting programs, religious camps, etc. None of those organizations can own firearms per California law. None of those organizations sponsoring groups can own firearms by law. Therefore, the only people that can own those firearms are people like you and I who are volunteering to work with those youth to teach them firearms safety. And there's the irony. We're there teaching firearms safety, the very thing that the legislators say people need to be more responsible. They need to know firearms safety. Okay, well, we're trying to do that. But now you're asking a person to go buy, depending on the number of kids. I ran a joint scout program through Venture Crews, which at the time were co-ed, and Boy Scouts, which were boys only. We had 150 youth, so we ended up with 40 plus firearms. They were in my name. They weren't mine per se. I mean, they were mine because they're registered to me, et cetera, yes. But their whole purpose was for those programs. They weren't guns that I was using for personal use. They were for training. And as a result, not breaking any laws, but when it came time to transfer them to the people replacing me, because I wasn't going to be in the program forever, my kids had aged out. Um, that took a couple of years, like 3, almost 4. And people noticing that were like, yeah, don't transfer all of them to me because I don't want to take 4 years to get them from you and then 4 years to, you know what I mean? So as a result, if that goes into effect, you're basically killing the future of youth firearms just with that one position in the bill. So this is one of the reasons we look at the technical things, Kevin. We fight those technicals, we make those arguments. I've been to the author, I've been to the author's ledge director and trying to push back on that like you can't do that. Like that this isn't going to work. There's a reason the court said no.
Yeah, and thinking about the 4 years that it's taking you, anybody that you're transferring to, that essentially would be an 8-year commitment because it's taking 4 years to get all of them, and then it's going to take another 4 years to get rid of all of them. And I guess just to clarify for some who aren't necessarily following everything that's going on in the 2A litigation. An existing federal district court order in a case pending appeal has enjoined the enforcement of the law limiting the number of firearms. So what you're referring to here, Rick, is that this 1 gun a month rule is already a law, and there's a lawsuit where that law was struck down. Now, you got the federal district court ruling there. It may be appealed, it may not, but the current status quo is that that is not a thing. So, Rick, I'm sort of curious. We've seen this before, and honestly, the most glaring portion that that I can remember seeing it was when we were kind of awaiting the Bruin decision from the Supreme Court. There were a couple of carry cases out of New York that looked pretty promising. What did New York do? They actually struck those laws from the record so that those lawsuits could be moot. Is this maybe another way that the legislature can do that? They can change the law from 1 to 3 a month to potentially affect a lawsuit?
Yes, and one of the things that they're trying to do is they're trying to get more people on our side to say, "Oh, well, tell me I can't buy 12," which really for most people I think is more the argument of, "Hey, there was a really good deal. I want to get one for myself and one for my wife, or I want 2 for competition, whatever it might be." That like nobody should need to buy more than 3 firearms a month. They're trying to set a standard, but that's not government's role. I mean, imagine for a moment if I was able to go in and tell, my wife or my daughter or any other woman in my life, no more than, two shoes or 2 purses or 2 dresses or 2, and so now the women get offended. The same thing telling their husbands, who, sorry guys, but we all have more hats than we ever are going to wear. I mean, you don't have just one hat. I mean, Kevin, I give you credit all the time. You've got multiple hats. I've got multiple hats that we wear. Our wives, at least I will say it, my wife is like, do you really need that many hats and that many t-shirts? Yeah, it's my right to have as many hats and t-shirts as I want. Now, granted, I have to negotiate that a bit with her, but it's not the government telling me that. And government doesn't do that in many, many areas. And so this is an area that they need to keep their hands out of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And strikingly enough, in the last week, this isn't the only piece of legislation that's been moving. I also wanted to get your take on Assembly Bill 1092. This is the bill that would have seen CCWs go from 2 years to 4 years. We saw it get voted down in committee, but it continued to move. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, so the members of the Assembly Public Safety had effectively, in many people's minds, killed the bill. And I want to do a shout out to Assemblywoman Leticia Castillo. She's a very small lady. A lot of people are shocked when they see her, but she is a fireball, and I love her so much because when the bill got defeated, I've been with other members of the assembly when legislators that affects Second Amendment has been defeated, and they're like, sorry, and they walk away. And she was like, stood with me and said, we are not done. And so her staff, her, all worked behind the scenes, all did stuff. And the Assembly Chair of Public Safety, Assemblyman Schultz, said, okay, let's bring it back up for reconsideration. It was passed on Tuesday on reconsideration, so the bill's not dead. It's effectively going to be around for the entire 2 year session. And so we're looking at like what we need to do to retool that to get it across the board. And so this is the example of why we work so hard at CRPA to fight to get people elected, to create a farm team of politicians up there because we're winning. And that was a huge win. We have other legislations that's moving through the Capitol. So things are positive, Kevin, and that has to do a lot with our volunteers as well.
Yeah, and this is kind of a big one for me just because I literally see no downside. This bill makes it better for everyone. It makes it better for the people who want to apply for CCWs or renew their CCWs and not have to worry about extensive fees and wait times. It also makes it better on the issuing agencies by spreading out the number of people that they have to renew annually from every other year to every fourth year. So a lot of upside there. Definitely going to want to be following along with that bill as it moves into next year. But Rick, let's also talk about the reason why I got blisters on my feet. So the reason why this video coming out to all you guys on Friday instead of Thursday like we normally do is we had a CRPA Capitol Day this week. We had the team and a bunch of volunteers up in Sacramento. Rick, can you go ahead and just explain for those who haven't necessarily gotten the messaging, what is a CRPA Capitol Day? How frequent does this sort of thing happen for something like the Second Amendment community up there in Sacramento, and maybe share some of the successes that we had?
Well, for decades it didn't happen. A lot of people complained. A lot of people complained to me. A lot of people said, "Hey, we don't march on the Capitol. We don't have Capitol rallies. We don't meet with people." And so, part of the concern was how do we do that in a way that doesn't hurt our community? And what I mean by that is you can have, and I've been at events like this where you have 100 well-meaning, good people advocating, doing everything the right way, and then you get one person in the crowd that drives by in a military vehicle, flipping everybody off, and that's who the media photographs as the epic face of our community, which, while that's a part of our community, that's not representative of the entire community. So we worked on it. We did our first Capitol Day, the first one that any 2A group had done in decades, up in Sacramento a couple of years ago. Each year they get better. This year we had over 50 people from most southern parts of the state to the northernmost parts, from the coastal communities to the Central Valley to the Sierra foothills. So it was really great. They were divided into 5 teams so they could hit senators and assembly members from those 5 different regions. And so that's where their appointments were. They sat down, we had done training, and they gave their stories. They affected change. And part of that change was we had a bill that we didn't like. And they were in that member's office early in the morning. They presented their reasons for not liking it. That led to a late in the afternoon meeting with myself and a couple of volunteers, in which that member agreed that, yeah, that bill's not going anywhere. And so it's out of play. Um, and that's the kind of change we can have, Kevin. And we also had other people sitting there looking at us and saying, wow, I did not know that. And hearing your stories is enlightening me. And we're already starting to see, even though this is, the day that they just went to recess yesterday, I've already had communication from several offices I normally don't get. We need to talk because they brought up some really good points. So, to a degree, when I walk in because of who I represent, there's some closed ears. But when I get their constituents in there, that changes the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw the paid actors there doing their rallies in the street. I can certainly personally attest where the change happens is in those face-to-face meetings, where the staff and the legislators are able to hear the stories and basically create their own next move. And one of the bills that I thought was the coolest one to be in the meetings with was the bear bill. You had, I mean, we didn't just have meetings with Republicans. We also had meetings with Democrats. These are people who don't vote or vote against the Second Amendment on plenty of bills throughout the last couple of years. And they were looking at us saying, well, you're kind of making some good points here. Maybe there's some reconsideration that needs to happen. This is something that I can certainly get behind. A lot of good stuff to come. It was truly a good experience. And guys, I will shamelessly plug this, okay? If you want to be the first to get the information on stuff like a CRPA Capitol Day, you want to attend that stuff, go join your chapters. They do end up being the privileged ones here. We've got great relationships with our chapters. We put this stuff out to those advocates who want to go up to Sacramento. So if you want to be in the know and you want to get to stuff like that, find a chapter near you. You can find it on crpa.org and get involved with those people. They are advocating not just in Sacramento, they're advocating at the local offices. They're enacting change at their local government as well. So definitely want to drive as much activity there as possible because they're getting it done. And get it done we did, Rick. So I guess you did mention that the legislature is on recess. We still have some movement that we saw this week with these bills. What are your final thoughts here, and what do we have to look forward to at the legislature?
Well, a couple final thoughts. On April 29th, there's another opportunity for those of you listening to the podcast here and to the video. We need you to be there on April 29th at 8 a.m. You can go to our website. We're going to be posting information on it this weekend. We will be having a rally on the bear bill. We're looking to get thousands of people there, and then we're going to take those people in that want to, and they're going to be able to go testify and say why this is a good thing. And this is going to be a great example of how our community can affect change that is positive for all of California. And so we have that coming up to the ladies watching this, or the dads who want to get their daughters or wives involved. We are going to have a second Capitol Day, so we're moving from one a year to two a year. And that Capitol Day will take place in August. We're figuring out the exact day of the week that we're going to be doing that, but that is coming up very soon. And so we're already going to be start training that. And we have a wonderful women's program called Women Armed to Vote and Educate, WAVE. And they have a really super cool logo. So if you want to know about that logo and want to see what it is, you got to go to one of the chapter meetings because that's where Kevin's sheltering it right now. And I think that's super cool. And so, lots of opportunities. So to those of you that say, hey, why aren't you guys out there doing more? I don't know what really more we could do because we're hitting this and we're hitting it hard and we're making change.
Yeah, a lot of positivity to come through these programs. Rick, I know that you head up the legislative committee meetings through the chapter program, so thank you very much for doing that. It's a great one-on-one for our advocates to get to have with you, who's constantly up in Sacramento. And man, I tell you, I got. Because of Capitol Day, I got a little taste of what you do on a regular basis, and let me just say I want to thank you for having that task and responsibility. Don't know exactly how well I would hang up there with you guys. That's a lot of walking, that's a lot of argumentation, and a lot of talking. So thank you very much for doing what you do, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure, and I love working with all our volunteers. And I just want to do a shout out. They were amazing.
Absolutely, and looking forward to doing it again, I'm sure. And guys, if you like content like this and you want to continue seeing the work that CRPA is doing for the Second Amendment in California, please, once again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps with the algorithms. It really helps get this information out there, and it is a great way for you to directly contribute to that change in Second Amendment litigation and legislative efforts here in the state. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.